to work and trying for take 2 on the white card course today. Decided to wear my reflective construction jacket today just to get in the mood. I think I have 10 that are on the list that have gotten parent permission that should all have their USI. Sort of closed it off and then had a couple of my year 11s in class saying, if I get my USI sorted, can I do the course? And I said, absolutely. Get USI organised, get your parents to sign the permission note online. And they started doing the USI stuff on the laptops. I turn around and they've disappeared. I think there was probably about 15 minutes of the lesson left and they disappeared. Laptop's still sitting there open. They hadn't finished the process. I know I'd let them get their phones out so they could look up other details and that sort of stuff to try and get it, because you need your Medicare number and stuff. I have no idea if they continued that process. I did mean to log on last night to check whether anybody else had gotten permission notes through and payment. I'm going to check it first thing when I get to school. There was one of the year 10 kids who didn't have their USI last time. He got his USI sorted and his mum rang at the start of this term and said, like, she asked if they were able to get a refund because he wasn't going to be doing the course. And I said, I was like, is he still wanting the card, and or just change your mind? And she said, well, he had organised some work in the holidays and needed the white card. So when this course was a bust, the last one, he got his USI sorted and she just paid for him to do an external provider course because he didn't need it for school. He wanted it for work in the holidays. Brilliant for him. Pretty sure I said this last time, I'm anticipating a very long day, more than likely go through till 4:30. That could be a little shorter, being only 10 students, because there's a component of the course which is individual questioning, where the kids have to answer stuff verbally, which I think the kids in our school usually do really well with verbal questioning. It's when they've got to write down stuff that they get stalled. Being that there's only 10 students, I shouldn't have any issue with getting through that in a decent amount of time. And the other bit being that they don't have to wait around for me to give them their certificate this afternoon. Once I've done all of the assessment with all of the kids, I can dismiss them and I can mark all of the work, give them their certificates once I've checked that it's all done. So it would probably still be a long day for me because I'll have to mark everything, because I need to write the certificates, copy the certificates, so that I can send a copy back to region and post all of the unused certificates, because I've got 20, and all the other associated paperwork. That's got to be posted by Wednesday afternoon. Nice to see a bit of sunshine today, though there's still a fair bit of rainy cloud around, but we just seem to be being hit with bad weather each weekend. One of my staff, my new staff, training to be a teacher, and one of the things that they've done now is that in an effort to try and reduce the teacher shortage issues a few years back, or a number of years back, that they would give teaching students their conditional teaching approval and teaching number before they'd finished uni. So if they'd been going all right in all their first years, once they got to their fourth year, they could have a casual teaching number, which meant that on days where they weren't at university, they could casual teach, which has been great for the school system. The staff member I've got in is in his final year, but he's doing all of his courses by correspondence so that he doesn't have to go into uni. However, he still has to do his final prac, which starts today and goes for 6 weeks. So that teacher that I got to cover all the classes that I couldn't get a teacher for, I now don't have a teacher for. I have one teacher who has come back to the school. She was relieving as college deputy for quite a while, and the regular college deputy came back this term, so she came back to us as her substantive head teacher position, picked up a couple of her subject classes, but she had still had periods available. And she said she would be willing to take on one of his Year 7 classes. So she sort of team talked with him for the last couple of weeks, and now she'll take the class. But there's still 3 other classes, a Year 7 and 2 Year 8s, that I do not have a teacher for, and they're going to have to be covered day-to-day, casual, overload extra in lieu of staff. I looked at the timetable to see if there was anybody available for those periods, and there's not. Still a massive teacher shortage. Just adds to the stress of the job. Like, he has left units of work for all of his classes. The booklets of the theory that goes along, we chose units that pretty much anybody could pick up because they aren't going into a workshop. Fingers crossed and hope for the best. Anyway, I think I've rambled long enough this morning. I will go back to my podcast because I'm listening to Making It, and just prepare myself for a long day of lecturing. I really don't like running the white card course. That's why I've had an external provider do it for the last 7 years, maybe. End of the day, Tuesday. Just had what I would call a fairly unproductive lesson with Year 11. It took forever to just get some of them to get up and start working. In the end, I had 4 probably working properly. A couple of the others mucking around them, sort of interrupting their work. And I had some that just wouldn't work at all. It's really hard to motivate an unmotivated kid when they show no real sense of ownership of what they want to do, and they come in and just go, yeah, I'm just going to sit around. Like, I opened up Evidence Central, like, on the big screen, showed our class and a record of progress on who's been doing the work and getting it uploaded, and it shows a green tick for everything that's been completed by a kid. There was only one student who had 3 ticks, and he's gone. He's got an apprenticeship and left. I was hoping that'd be a motivator. Opened up the cabinet for the computers. No. Saw one kid truanting down at the oval about the back. Yelled out at him. Asked him why he was truanting. I couldn't really hear what he was saying, but he didn't come. I got to go and ring his parents. It's quite soul destroying when I know it's not all kids. I just seem to have a batch of them. Year 10 this morning was pretty good. They were working well and helping out. Year 8 were looking forward to getting back in the workshop. Some of them even said that to me because I was out as DP and on training last week. Remember, I said I had a staff member who's gone off in his final prac, couldn't get a casual for his class, so we merged the 2 classes. So I had to take my guys into the computer room, which is the room I've got booked. My guys were doing design tasks, the other class was doing work in the middle that their teacher left. So you can't get a lot done. But the class was good. The classes were good, that Year 8 group. Now, period 1 and period 4, and recess and lunch, I spent just finalising the paperwork for the white card, making sure everything is signed, filling out all the certificates, going through and checking everything and making sure I've got everything to send back, scanning everything that I've got to send back because they want me to email it and then mail it. This is why I don't like doing the white card course, like why I don't like running it, because it's just an absolute time drain because of the administration. And I understand the administration needed, but it's just, it's a time drain. It really drains your head. Like yesterday, we started at 9 and finished at 4:30. And I was trying to do the marking of it afterwards. The one thing about the Year 11 class is it's not like having super disruptive behaviours. It's just non-compliant behaviours. They're not rude about it. You ask them, you remind them, you prompt them, and they don't move. Here I'm going to get into some of my thoughts on behaviour management. some people, and I've had some kids say, why don't you put them under detention? I put kids on detention. Who has to look after them while they're on detention? Me. Who's being punished? Me. If they don't work in here because we're doing prac, do I want to then make them come back in lunch to do prac and lose my lunch, which I don't get much of? Like I lost my recess and lunch today just to paperwork. It's a quote that I've seen in a lot of places. I'm trained as an educator. I'm hired as an educator. I shouldn't have to be a behaviour management person. You provide the opportunity, you support through the opportunity, you guide, but you can never make somebody do something. Otherwise it becomes coercion. Now there's going to be a natural consequence for the kids if they don't do the work, just as there would be if they were out in the workforce. If you're not going to participate in the workforce, you're not going to be in the workforce for very long. And that's one of the things that I try to get through the kids in this course. And some of them say, oh yeah, but I'll be getting paid there. And I said, you won't be for long if this is your attitude. You need to change that attitude before you leave school, because school is pretty easy compared to real life. Anyway, the day's over. I've got to go and do some timetable stuff because I haven't had time to do it, and I've got all these emails that I've flagged for things that have got to be fixed on the timetable, and I really can't let them go for too long. So I'll go and do that before taking off. I don't want to leave. I don't want to be here late. 4 boys today in Year 11. There were a number of them who were part of the college football team, and they go off at recess to do training today. So I knew they weren't going to be here. There's some out of the school at the moment, and there's a number that pretty sure they're truanted. There's some that are absent, but there's a few that I'm pretty sure truanted. Anyway, the 4 that were here were working really well. It gave me a chance to try and figure out their next project. I'm trying to work it out based on cost when you look at how sort of unmotivated some of them are. And like I really love the small sawhorse. I found my cutting list for it, and I worked out it's going to be roughly $46 to $50 worth of timber, because there's like over 6 meters of the construction grade pine for the legs. There's only like 10 to 12 bucks of pine for all the little braces and stuff. $6 for the tops, if you're making 2, like I said. But we've got some plans for a stool, and I saw the plans that were available, printed them off, but some of the measurements look really bizarre. I couldn't figure out how wide the original material was supposed to be and what sort. It looked like they were basing it off 190, but there's some really weird measurements, and I don't know whether the guy who designed it was, I guess, trying to test the kids. Like having the top of the stool legs section being 193 wide, and it's 2 pieces joined together, and the bottom was 358. So they're like at the top, 193 wide. That top piece of one side needs to be 96.5. So what I've done is I started drawing it out full size to scale. So with my center line, and started measuring out everything. And so the original drawing came out to here. And I worked out when you take a right angle here through to where the legs split apart, it was 145, 146. So I'd have to order big timber for it. So I've just scaled it down slightly, so it's going to be the 140 wide timber coming up to here. Because I've done full scale, I worked out that this was a 16-degree angle, so they can set the drop saw for that. The hardest part is going to be taking the 140, 16-degree angle, 90, and then this join line, getting that nice and clean somehow so that they can do the glue joint. Then this part has some housing joints notched over it. There'll be one on both sides, and the top is basically just 2 pieces of 140 glued together, because it says 280 and their original diagram says 280 as well. So that means that the bottom must still be 346 rather than 357. this top part is 180, which works out a little cleaner. And this bottom part, it says 25mm hole. I've got a 22mm spade bit down here. I do have a 25 down in one of the other workshops, but I figure I'll just do it with the one I've got here. So I'm gonna have to plan this out myself, make one, record it so that they've got something to follow as well, like I do with the toolbox. Well, I think I got some of it sorted out. I've just been mucking around with it. And I've changed this angle to 15 degrees because the saw actually locks into 15. 16 was a bit dodgy. Worked out, you know, speed square straight across. Use the speed square to get 15 degrees. Draw a line straight up to there from this point here. Measure up 200, that gives you that spot. 15 degree line across here, that's 89, 90. And then you can go, I think it was 312 down here, 15 degrees across, measure in 70, draw the line up there, and I did the 15 degree cuts on that, and then the off cut gets set in here as a fence that's locked in, and we can use the drop and slide, because construction's allowed to do the long straight cut for that inner edge of the leg. I'll come back down here and I'll fiddle around with that, and then I found out if you just trace that one onto here, you can get all that cut out. I've got some timber down here. I'll just use the stuff that I've got in here and see how I go. And but right now I've got playground duty. You're going to wait till it goes all the way around. Good boy. This bandicoot has been going to town in our yard. This is right up next to the house. Along here, all down here. Hey, Bab? Hey, where's your ball? Where's the ball? Where'd you leave your ball? You had enough. All right. Okay. Friday. Had year 10, period 3. That was pretty good. I had more kids working today. And then year 12 today, apparently there's an excursion over to one of the other campuses, so there was a few kids out of that. So the few kids who came here finished putting this together. It came pretty much assembled. I ran down to Total Tools in Trimbury today and bought it this morning. I was going to get one at Bunnings, but then I read the reviews and it wasn't so good. But there's a fair bit of flex in it, so I think there's a few bolts that still need doing up. And pump up the tyres, obviously. I can't find the compressor. Should have been in the trade school. I wonder if I've taken it over to the staff room for some reason. I know I've used it recently and I can't remember where. So I should talk about this a little bit. 65 litre or 2.2 cubic feet, basically, mixer. One of the other ones I looked at that I was going to buy apparently sat like that, and the reviews were saying that it would tip over and tip out while mixing. Now every mixer I've played with will sit like this. You mix it, then you
it out into your wheelbarrow. And this is pretty much like the one at the house. Good cover, easier access to the stop-start button on this one. Good cover over that. And the other one I was looking at, it was almost like the motor was a direct drive and everything was enclosed and people said it overheated. This one, electric motor, has a metal cover, which is better than my old one. Plenty of airflow around the motor. Pretty similar. The other one I had the handles came up here. But looking forward to using it with the kids so they can mix up their mortar, or if we ever do any concreting again, it's perfect. It was meant to come in a box and you had to assemble it, and when I got down to the store it was sitting there. I thought it was just a display model, and they said, the boss told them, put it together because people want to come in and buy it. So it was ready assembled. The guy helped me put it in the back of the ute. I tied it down, brought it to school. But it just needs some of the bolts tightened. It's only just been put together finger tight. I was looking in the instructions because I had a look at this, and the people at the store put the nuts on wrong. It's meant to go bolt through, washer, split washer, nut underneath. And they've put the washer and split washer up top. So the bolts underneath can't really tighten up that well because they've got no slits. Anyway, it's lunchtime now. One more period after that, and it's the weekend.